Okay.
Hey,
Hey,
can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. I can't see you.
No, you can't?
Nope.
I think that's your computer, though. You have to go to the top and there's a button. to push.
Where?
It was at the bottom. Participants.
Share screen.
See,
Anybody else there?
Yeah, we're here. I think we're just waiting for Alan and I think maybe Dale.
Okay, I see Sherry.
Cheryl.
ask her if Clearlake.
I don't see the main screen. I see Sheryl Almon. I see a sign for Melissa Swanson, and I see me.
Oh, I see Alan too. And
There you are.
Andrew and Michael.
See, let's
I
see.
don't see Andrew and Michael, but you're there.
I'm here somewhere. Huh.
It looks like we have a quorum.
I see Alan now.
I don't know why you can't see me, but
You have to do it on the lower corner. You have to start your video. Lower left, try lower left.
It says stop video. So go back. Share screen.
Share screen where?
It's in
wasn't this hard last time.
green.
Yeah. Can you guys see me? I see Cheryl. You guys got me on there. And I
Yep,
think think I see Alan, and that's it.
Yeah, share screen is if you just want to show a file or something on your computer.
Okay. You're an expert at this.
I've literally logged thousands of hours on Zoom in the last 6 months, that's for sure. As
Well,
many.
I've got 10, I think.
I have 3 today.
Wow. Yeah, every time somebody speaks, they pop up. So
There's Bruno. Dale.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you today?
good. How are you doing?
Good.
Dale or Melissa, did either of you talk to Kurt? You know, the deal.
I tried finding a phone number for him. I wasn't able to find one.
I see Bruno.
We hear you too, Bruno. We hear the car.
Sorry, I'll turn me off.
Ooh, thank you. We can always have you turn back on.
My video won't start.
Lower left corner.
Mm-hmm.
There should be a little video camera icon.
I know it says start video with a line across it, but won't
Hit,
connect.
hit. That's what you need to hit to get it going.
Yeah, the line will take you, it takes you out. You have to take off the line. Just touch it.
Ah,
Yeah, we just went to Zoom.
There we go.
and We typed it in because we hit the link and it was kind of weird. Are you on there now? Okay.
Okay, Michael, we see you now. So don't do
Yeah.
anything.
There you are.
it's technology figured out.
We're missing Kurt.
Yes.
Do we know if he's going to come? Hey, Mike.
All right, got it figured out.
Melissa's gonna give Kurt a quick call and see what's up. We could just, if everyone doesn't mind waiting just a couple minutes.
Not at all.
What are you doing? Kissing your camera there, Ray?
Yeah, it's a little close, isn't it? I could probably adjust it. I know you like to look at me, Mike. How's that?
Centered.
Cool. Did you find your tools, Mike?
Did I find what?
Your tools.
Oh yeah. There, I had to go up to Blue Lake Saturday night, about 11 o'clock. Pick them up.
Yeah, well, that's cool that you got them back. That doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't. It's about 1 out of 5.
Yeah, good for you. How did you find out?
The guy got pulled over for something else. And because I posted the video on Facebook of the guy that stole the stuff with his
I
car.
saw it. Yeah,
Then the sheriff's department, because they look at that stuff.
cool.
So because they saw the post, they recognized the car that was pulled over and they saw all the tools in it. And so.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, I had to go up there about 11 o'clock Saturday night and pick everything up. So that was good.
Kurt is unable to make the meeting.
Okay, I guess we need a volunteer chair again.
I think Bruno would probably be better this time.
He's
I don't know.
driving.
He's driving down the road.
Well, I think we need somebody who, I can't get the agenda back up, other than the fact that we're looking, the first item is 2019-20 budget.
Yeah, the first thing we should probably do is Pledge of Allegiance, huh? If we're
Sorry,
going
I
to
can't
start the
stand.
meeting. Mike, you want to chair it?
What?
You want to be the designated chair today? I did it last time.
I guess. Well, we have everybody here.
I just heard that Kurt isn't going to make it.
If you'd like, Chair Van Diver, I can do roll call.
Please.
All right. Acting Chair Van Diver. Present?
You can do roll call?
Yes. So, Acting Chair Van Diver. Present? Can you hear me?
You're breaking up.
Okay. Member Sabatier.
Just say yes.
Yes. Member Silva.
Yes.
Member Almond.
Here.
And Chair Gianbruno is absent. Okay. And Acting Chair Van Diver.
Here.
Okay.
So I don't have any minutes or anything from the last meeting, or do you have those, Melissa?
No, those were not part of the agenda for today.
I don't think we've ever had accurate minutes.
Oh, we did? Oh, nothing from last meeting?
Yeah. I don't think we had any minutes, although we might have.
I think
minor-
I think the only minutes that are missing are the last meeting.
Yeah. Okay, well, we can't approve them if we can't see them.
Right.
All right, so, all right, I guess meeting called to order. What time is it? Whatever time it is. Oh, it's 2:10.
I just saw an agenda pop up. Somebody put that on there?
Yes.
Thank you. I've got one in front of me. How do I get rid of it? Let's see.
Oh, there is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Trying to scroll through this thing here.
I think whoever posted it needs to scroll. I don't know that we can.
Are we skipping the pledge, or do you want to go to public comment?
Oh, okay. All right, so we got here. We open up for public comments first, or
Yep.
is there anybody else on here?
Unless you want to do the pledge, Mike. You want to do the pledge?
Pledge
What's
of
that?
You want to do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, all right,
All right. Start us off.
all right. Pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cool.
All right, so was there, Melissa, was there, as far as public comments, was there anything, emails or anything turned in, or?
So I haven't received any emails for public comment. Additionally, we have the open town hall, which I have not received any public comment on. We do have one public member. So if the public member wishes to speak on the Zoom, please raise your hand using the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen.
Okay.
And it doesn't look like I have any hands raised for public comment. So at this time, there's no public comment.
Okay. So business, 2019, 2020 budget discussion. I've gone over these numbers and stuff as far as what was emailed to me One thing when I was looking for, what I requested was the expenditures for the gas tax and the funds that coming from the state that we got for the self-help. I'm not sure if you're familiar with how that all works. I guess what I'd like to do, I'd start off with what I feel about the whole thing here. I was on the committee from Measure H, from the first one on. Measure H, Measure R, and Measure V, all three committees. Measure H, we had a town hall meeting to find out what the public felt about the ordinance and everything. And at that time, we also had the other attached to it, besides the roads. Code enforcement was attached to Measure H and R. Those two didn't pass. Measure V took that off of there, and just became roads, and it finally passed. So I've got a feeling of what the community was looking for through the committees and through the town hall meeting that we had. As far as the expenditures of the road tax. What I feel is what's happened is because of the turnover of people in the city from when this first all started. I don't think anybody there was measured during Measure H. I think Measure R, were you there, Alan? Were you in place through Measure R? Okay. So Measure B, basically, Alan was there. And I don't think anybody, Public Works Director, everybody that's there now isn't really familiar with what the whole purpose with Measure B was for. Basically, what it came down to was it was for roads. It's for road improvements. It wasn't meant for sidewalks and curbs. And 25% was discussed with the city council at the time that it passed, that 25% would go to labor of Measure B. That was discussed with the city council at one time or another. So I guess my concerns is that funds aren't being spent in the places that they should be being spent. They're being spent in other areas. So that's my take on it. Like I said, I'm not sure where the funds for the gas tax and the other funds are going to. But I think those issues of the salaries and the extra work of the curbs and sidewalks, those issues need to be discussed. So,
Can I speak up here, Mike? You want to recognize me? Mike, can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. What?
Okay. Yeah, I actually had some questions in there too, but before I get to them, I went back through the paperwork on Measure V and the ordinance, and basically this has been something we've discussed all along. The committee expenditure plan will be annually reviewed by the Oversight Committee, and updates to the expenditure plan will be recommended by the Oversight Committee with input from Public Works and City Engineer to the City Council, who will make the final annual allocations. So basically what the ordinance and our job is to approve the expenditure plan that was put forth. That expenditure plan I have in front of me, and it isn't specific. It starts with annual grading and associated graveling on existing unpaved roads, and goes through to minor chip seal, shoulder restoration, maintenance of street signs, all the way to road construction and repair. And it just has a lump sum amount, which accounts for the money that was supposed to be gotten. Now, since then, we've had meetings and we've discussed what the scope of the committee should be. It's pretty well spelled out that right now, unless we get different direction from the city council, our job is to say, yes, they are spending the money in accordance with this expenditure plan, or no, they're not. And I don't see any evidence of they're not. I think everything they've done has been on the roads. However, we start getting into the details of how much is going to be spent on wages, and I think that's what you were getting at. I think everybody had an idea in mind, but it was never spelled out to anyone, and I don't think it's written anywhere that that's spelled out. So, I mean, I have my opinion on how much should be spent on employees and wages, and how much should be spent on construction, and I'm sure everybody else does. If I've asked and I've talked to a couple of the city councilmen about expanding our scope to include more specifics and actual recommendations of what's going to be done and when, and how much should be spent on wages. But we haven't gotten any direction from the council in that regard. So I actually emailed a list of questions about some of the specifics and never got a response. The spreadsheet is nice. It doesn't mean that much to me. I didn't take it to an accountant to have them look it over. But what maybe I can ask Alan now, maybe he can answer me. Maybe you didn't get the email. What was the total public works budget for the fiscal year 2019, 2020?
There.
Alan.
I did not calculate that.
Okay.
It's 3 separate units.
Okay, I have in my notes, I'm sorry, I don't have the spreadsheet up, but starting July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, the budget average for every 2 weeks was $437,000. Does that seem right? Did I pick that up correctly?
Where are you getting that from?
I got that from the spreadsheet because I was looking at overall costs. So there were a few.
That wouldn't make sense because that would be 1.6 million a month, or 800,000 a month.
No, I was a period of time that was almost a year. Well, balance beginning.
I saw something just pop up that looked promising.
Yeah, there's a spreadsheet back there.
Trying.
Yeah, I think what I was getting at though.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Okay.
I just want to say that you just discussed the delineation of what this committee is supposed to do, and
Yes.
while I think it's good information to know what the public works budget is, that is absolutely in the wheelhouse of the council to make those decisions as far as what the budgets are. As far as the money that Measure V received, which is just the 1%, all at this moment, unless the scope gets changed, is for us, as you said, Ray, to look at, is it being spent on the roads or is it not being spent? And do we approve or not approve? Not do we think it should have been spent elsewhere? Or do we think it should have been spent differently? Does it meet the requirements of what Measure V was voted for? So even though it's good information, Public Works, seeing, because I think I know where you're going and I'm making an assumption, seeing that we're paying that much more for staff from Measure V, but not from Public Works, that would be a city council issue and not a Measure V committee issue necessarily, because if the money was spent on roads, we still can't say yes, but no. It's either yes or no.
Yeah, I think I think I know where Mike was going, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. You had to do with the amount, the percentage of Measure V that's being spent on wages as opposed to what's actually being spent for contract work to repair roads. I mean, I think that's a valid opinion, but again, the the scope of this committee, unless we ask for it to be changed and the council decides that they want us to dig deeper and analyze things, or even make recommendations on what should be done next, or what should be on the plate, or how much we should spend on employees, unless they want that, then we really don't have much of a job here except for to say yes or no. And I don't think Alan got a new Corvette or anything, and no vacation. So, well, you understand my point is they're spending, for example, I'd like to bring this up because it's a valid point. You need to have a public works crew. And I'll give you a good example. Down at the end of my street, there was a pine tree, good sized pine tree. I'm guessing 60 footer, that had several trunks off of it. One of them was going over the top of the house. So the homeowner took it out. Unfortunately, what it did is it put all the weight on the roadside because it was on the edge of the road. And as I was driving out of here, out of the harbor, every 3 or 4 days or whatever it was when I went by, I noticed the tree was leaning heavier towards the road. The last time I drove through there before I made the phone call, it was brushing the top of my truck. It was getting ready to go down across the road. So I made a call. It was a Friday. I made a call. Public Works was closed. So I called the police department because this was an accident and a real problem getting ready to happen. That thing was going to go down, and let them know what was going on. As I left, I called it in. I came back about 2 hours later and it was gone. Apparently the PD had gotten a hold of somebody in Public Works. Johnny on the spot went out there and whacked this limb that was gonna block the road. Whacked it out and took it away. So although I agree that there needs to be a Public Works crew available to do things like that, or if there's a major problem on one of our roads like Lakeshore Drive, you need people that can get out there and take care of things. I do think that there should be a limit on the percentage of Measure V funds that are spent on staff and wages. That's my opinion. If we want to change the scope of what we're actually doing, I think the city council needs to actually ask for it, and they haven't.
Go ahead, Sheryl.
You're
Can't
muted.
hear you.
Are you muted? I can't hear.
Yeah,
No, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Press it again. Nope.
I read lips fairly well.
Try logging off and back in. Or maybe turning off your audio. If you go to where it says mute, click the arrow. Or she's logging off and logging in. And with all of the conversation that's being had, I know that I believe that we took away all percentages. Am I correct, Alan, that in Measure V, there are no percentages of what can go to equipment, what can go to personnel, and what can go to roads? I think we got rid of all of that just so that there would be flexibility within the city to be able to fulfill the needs of what the city needs this year to be able to accomplish its goals. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
It
And
might
so,
help. Well,
what was that?
So
it might help for me to give a little bit of background whenever you're ready on some of the
Okay.
numbers. But,
You have some numbers, Alan?
well, I mean, you can see the chart on the screen.
Yes.
So this is just a simplification of the stuff. This is similar. I mean, some of you mentioned the chart that you received in the past, I think at the last meeting. So this is just updated for the last couple of years. Now this is actual amounts, not budgeted, but I mean, you can see let's see.
So I see
Yeah.
700,000 there.
A
That's
third
33%.
of the total expenditures was spent on salaries. And so there's been primarily 3 revenue streams for related to roads and public works. There's general fund public works budget unit, which is generally less than a couple $100,000. There's Measure V, and then there's our gas tax revenues. And so you know, just to give you a little bit of context, I did do the same thing here for gas tax. You can see we're about $600,000 in revenue from gas tax. And this is sort of the breakdown of what we spent that money on. I mean, you know, basically a third of that as well, a little bit over, is going to staffing. And very little of the gas tax is going to projects. The bulk of that comes from Measure V, although, you know, we do have a little bit of fund balance in the fund that we could dedicate more of that towards a project, as if we save a little bit of money up. But I just wanted to kind of give that overview to the committee. So
Yeah, I got a question, Alan. I thought you, at the last meeting, I thought you said 60% of Measure V was being, or 70% was being spent on wages. That changed.
What I did say was, off the top of my head, I think about 60% of Measure V was budgeted for salaries, which is correct. In 1920, it was right around 60%. But this is what actually was spent. I mean, and you know, part of the problem is we have more positions allocated than we can always fill, and guys leave and go work for private contractors and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
Well, I should we just speak, Mike, or you want to give permission?
Well, yeah, something I want to come back to in regards to when you were talking about the scope of this committee. My interpretation of what we should be doing is determining that Measure V funds are being spent according to what the people voted for. Okay. Through all the discussions during the committees and city council and everything else in regards to Measure V, our job basically is to show the dollar amounts aren't for me aren't an issue. What is that the funds are being spent where they're supposed to be spent.
Yeah, I think I went over that. And this page, Mike, this covers everything from, you know, taking a tree out of the way for public safety to paving roads. So, and everything in between. That's the way it was structured. So as of right now, basically anything that's done on the roads, if 100% of Measure V money was spent on wages for things for roads, that would be appropriate according.
Is that in the ordinance?
Now that's on the on this 3-page road maintenance improvement transaction and use tax expenditure plan for anticipated 1% transaction and use tax revenue. That's everything to do with roads.
Okay, but that doesn't have specifically anything to do with Measure V. Does that have to do with all funds?
That has to do with the use tax revenue. I think that's Measure V.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Very little.
So,
Back to my concern. One, we're talking about a number of things and we're not settling stuff. So I don't see curbs and sidewalk. I see curbs going in, and we had agreed before that you need to have the substructure in order to move the water off the roads. If you don't have good drainage, our roads are not going to last. So that's a substructure component. I haven't seen any sidewalks go in under Measure V. And the other piece I have is that, one, we need to leave it up to staff whether they have employee resources or contracted resource. That's micromanaging, in my opinion. They need to do what they've got based on who they've got and how they need to work that whole piece. So as long as we're getting road work done, and I live near Emory, so, and Mullen, where they're putting that in, and I know they're doing some asphalt, but I don't see, other than drainage curbs, which is needed on that hill to manage that water, because that's a problem, then I don't see that not taking care of our roads long term. So we can talk in circles, but let's try to take each time we get something and actually finish it to a conclusion. Otherwise, we're talking the same thing we did last time and we're not getting anywhere. So can we
Yeah, and-
talk
and
about the process?
I would
Hold
agree.
Hold on, Ray.
Yeah.
Okay. So the problem I have with that, Cheryl, is that the community is expecting a certain thing because that's what they were told.
And
okay? Okay. The community basically doesn't agree with the sidewalks and the curbs.
I don't agree with the sidewalks either in terms of Measure V, but curbs are different. Curbs are drainage on the roads. If you need that drainage, if you need that drainage to supply, to maintain that road, we need to put it in.
And that's fine. I agree with you on that. But those funds for that should come out of a different pot. That's all I'm saying. Because Measure V is for roads. If you branch off away from roads and put little fingers out there in different locations, before you know it, the funds aren't going where they're supposed to go. Okay. And the community can see that.
Well, I guess I have a hard time thinking that the substructure of the road is not applicable.
There's
From an engineer.
There's a couple of ways of looking at that.
Yeah.
And I tend to agree with Mike on the premise that the idea of this thing was to fix roads, not to revamp the entire drainage structure of the city. And I mean, well, let me finish and then you can go. I remember, I'm a contractor. I understand these things pretty well.
I'm an engineer and I understand things.
Okay. So if for example, there's all kinds of ways to approach things. If you're going to fix the drainage structure of every road in this town, and I do agree that some of it needs to be addressed, you're going to run out of money before you do 1/3 of the streets in the city.
And I'm not trying to have all of the streets looked at as drainage. That I don't think we need that, but there are some that do. So I think we have to look at the engineering and what are going to hold those streets together.
There's no question about that. The drainage needs to be there. That's not an issue. Okay. The issue is the funds to pay for that, where they come from. Okay. If you start taking funds out for sidewalks and curbs,
I don't want that.
Measure V, then you're taking it away from the roads.
I feel like we're splitting hairs, because why do we need to repair the roads? Because the curbs and gutters were not intact and messing up the road, therefore making us spend more money to repair the roads. And so if we're going to repair a road, let's make sure it doesn't get back into that same shape by not ignoring the reason why it got into that worse shape in the first place. I think that the road is a lot more than just a road. There are things that will damage the road that we need to resolve to ensure the longevity of the road, of the funds that we're applying to it. If we're going to apply funds to a road and allow it to be destroyed in 2 years because we're not going to take care of the falling tree and the root system underneath that's destroying it, then we're ignoring a real reason why the road is in bad shape in the first place. So I think that there needs to be some flexibility within. Sidewalks, I get it, even though I would love to fight and say we absolutely need sidewalks, but yeah, let's look for a different funding source. But when we're getting to the part of what constitutes a road that will be safe and that will have longevity, because our job is to ensure that that $2 million is going to last us the 10 to 15 years, not 5 years or less. And some of those aspects of the roads are what makes that money be well spent versus not.
I agree with that. I'm not disagreeing with that. Okay. What I'm saying is that the funds to do other things like sidewalks and curbs. I'm not talking about drainage. If you have to put drainage ditches in, if you have to put culverts in when you're redoing a road, that's part of the road. I agree with that. But sidewalks and curbs, no. I mean, Alan, I'm trying to remember the locations of on Emory, right off Lakeshore, the
Mullen.
job they just finished. There are sidewalks and curbs put in there.
I wouldn't call them exactly sidewalks.
Yeah, there's some sidewalk.
Curbs are a drainage structure. That's what they exist for. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's
Okay, so the sidewalks were put in there. There's another location, I'm trying to remember where it was, where there was a lot of sidewalks put in. Were those paid for with Measure V funds?
that whole project. Well, pretty much all that project is Measure V. I'm not 100% sure if there was a little bit of gas tax in there, but pretty much all Measure V. So I don't know if we can somehow tie this down. I would say that staff's interpretation of eligible expenditures for Measure V up until I got here and the time I've been here has been that new road construction projects were not eligible. So for example, the Dam Road Extension project was funded from another source because we made we had the interpretation that it's a completely new road,
Right.
not road maintenance. And so it should not be, Measure V funds should not be used. One other project that the council did not want to use Measure V funds on was some repair like at Ogulin Canyon, because they didn't feel like that was a project that really served like residential properties and, maybe on the fringe of what Measure V should be used for. Those are two things that come to mind. Now, if the committee, a majority of the committee wishes to include in their recommendation to the council that something like that be changed, you can certainly do that. And the council can give us direction related to that. But I would say that, I mean, if you're to take a narrower view of what is considered a road project and to exclude curb and other drainage things, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to just pave stuff and we're not going to make drainage improvements. Kind of what Bruno was saying, it's not going to last as long because, the reality is there isn't the extra funding source out there to complete a lot of that stuff. That stuff's, an expensive part of the project. And so,
I understand the drainage. I'm not questioning drainage whatsoever, period. Nothing about drainage, okay? That's not what I'm referring to.
So,
Sidewalk.
Mike, where are the sidewalks that you're
I don't-
worried about?
Yeah, me too.
Are you talking about the island on Emory and Lakeshore?
I had written it down, the locations, and I lost the paper.
Because I know that there's that island on Emory and Lakeshore, and to me, that's a dividing factor for those that need to turn left and turn right, so that it really delineates how the flow of traffic is moving. It's not meant as a pedestrian sidewalk necessarily.
That was existing. That's always, that's been there.
Existing.
Okay, but there's a sidewalk that was put in there, probably a good 50, 60 foot of sidewalk put in there.
I was
Where?
having a sort of side conversation with Dave Schwartz. And so I like for him to address that particular project since you brought it up. I asked him to give you a percentage of that project that was related to storm drainage, percentage related to other concrete work, and to address whether there's any sidewalks as part of that project.
Okay, first of all, the last question is the easiest to answer, and there's no sidewalk that was placed on that project. The second thing was the project bid total was about $1,164,000. Of that, we spent about $126,000 on storm drainage. And that was about 10% of the project cost. And on the curb and gutter, which for the most part, I think maybe the whole project, but for the most part, is only on one side of the road because the road slopes one direction.
Mhm.
And then on the north side of the road or the opposite side of the road, we put a concrete mow strip. So you have to have a defined boundary on which you want your asphalt, your new asphalt concrete to rest. If you don't have that, from day one, your
Chips away.
concrete asphalt's going to start chipping away. I mean, it's not going to last very long at all as people turn off their driveways or drive on the side of the road. So the concrete amount that was spent on that project was $218,000, which was about 18% of the project. I'm listening to, and I'm appreciative of where everybody is on the project, but from a technical perspective, to go spend $1 million on a roadway, if you don't put the storm drain and the curb and gutter in, the useful life of that roadway is reduced probably by more than 50%.
I've got a question. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
So you just, by not doing that on a road like Emory, Mullins and Pearl, you're taking a 20-year road life and you're reducing it to 10 with $1 million. So, and it's from a cost benefit analysis, looking at, various pavement management programs or otherwise, your money ahead to spend those extra percentages to protect the road.
I got a question on there, and I of course, it's hard to argue with addressing drainage when it needs to be addressed. But am I to assume that every road that we do in town now is going to be constructed with gutters and curbs and?
That wouldn't be my expectation, Ray.
Well, that's
no,
what it
Ray,
sounds like to me, is that if you're going to spend $1 million on Yule or $2 million on Yule, I would imagine you're going to have to go through the same process and put the drainage facilities in.
Well, there's a lot of drainage problems on Yule.
That's
So,
my
yes.
point. That's my point. And
But that doesn't mean other roads have that kind of drainage problem.
Yeah. Also, while we're on the subject of Emory, I noticed that they had a sign up there that said road closed to through traffic for a large part of the project. Were you aware of that, Dave?
No, construction inspectors, we have, staff that takes care of all that.
Yeah,
That's
well,
kind of
my point was, in the last meeting, and I almost corrected the minutes, you said that you always need traffic control. It isn't true. They had a sign there that said road closed to through traffic, and the only people that drove up that road, no flagmen, the only people that drove up that road were the people that lived there. So it can be done, and I'm referring to the grading operation across the highway, which I'll get into later. But again, all of this, if the city council doesn't want recommendations on these types of things, it really doesn't matter, because staff is going to make the decision based. Dave's going to be turned loose to say, hey, we're going to pave this road. What do we need to do? As a good engineer, he's going to put the drainage facilities in and everything that goes with it. That is part and parcel of what we're discussing. But does the council want those recommendations, or they just want to trust staff is what we're into? Because if they just want to turn it over to staff and have the decisions made to do or not to do gutter and how to handle streets, this is what we're going to end up with throughout the city. And I really don't have a problem with that. I just don't know, like Mike said, is that what people expect? Or would they expect on a street like Yule, maybe you leave a foot on each side of the paved roadway and then just contour the road and repave it without drainage facilities and just fix the road? I mean, that's a suggestion that may or may not be useful. On some roads it would, and some roads it wouldn't. But again, I'm not sure if the council wants that. According to the ones I talked to, they said, yeah, we'd like information like that. But I haven't seen any direction from council to change anything. From my own perspective, I think it's really nice that those people on Emory got free curbs and gutters. When I moved into my lot where I live, I paid for all those. They're existing when I moved in. It was part of the subdivision. the people on Emory are having them gifted to them, which is nice. I'm not sure if that's what the rest of the city was looking for, but again, are we going to go into that scope or not?
Well, you have to remember that that section down there is close to the lake and it has heavy drainage going through from the hill above it. So you're looking at things are going to be different depending on where you are within our city because of the terrain. And if you're going to be in a position where you're going to undermine that road for half its life, I don't think that that would be a hard argument for anybody to say what's prudent for our dollars. I don't want to be back in there in 10 years. We can't be back in there in 10 years.
Okay, so look, let me make myself clear as far as what I'm trying to get at here is I'm not questioning anything that the city's doing as far as the work. They're doing what they need to do and improving things the way they need to be done. That's not my issue. My issue is where the funds are coming from to pay for the different types of work that's being completed. Okay, my only concern is where Measure V funds are going. That's I'm assuming that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, according to this page, Mike, this one that I was reading from, it includes.
That's fine, right? Okay. You know, that's all well and good. And that's going to, the council, you know, I'm going to have to myself, I'll go to the council members or whatever and explain to them my thoughts on this. And they're the ones going to have to determine what happens or what goes on, not me. Okay. My job is to report to the city council and let them know my thoughts about the Measure V funds, period. Nothing else.
Yeah, it's interesting. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I thought we were a committee looking at this, and aren't we also looking at our obligations under finance? This is a financial situation that we're talking about. So having all of us think we need to run out to the council is not my idea of where we need to be, unless that's the way you want this to work. But, you know, if we are looking at the integrity of the roads we're putting in and wanting to get a life of what we're looking at 20 years to cycle through this, that's our life.
That's not an issue. We're not discussing. That's not what this is about.
Well, every time you bring up, well, what do we do this or whether we do that, you know, we're what is required. I don't want sidewalks under Measure V either. That's not road. Curbs where it's needed. If it's a drainage issue and drainage along with the road, that's road. So what, if you want to make a definition, back to Raymond, what does that definition look like in your 4-page thing?
That's not our job to do that. That's the city council's.
Mike, you said you wrote it down, but I still haven't heard it. What is your issue with money being used for things that you don't feel it should have been used for? You said sidewalks, but then you can't say where the sidewalks are. Give me a specific thing, because I'm confused about what we're talking about if everything else is okay once we start discussing it.
I can't remember the other location that I saw here a couple of weeks ago.
So are you talking about janitorial paper supply, the Clearlake place right next to Emory? Because that was them.
I'm not talking about that.
Okay.
I mean, if I understand you right, Mike, what you're saying is that the road should be fixed with the Measure V money, but if there's going to be curbs or drainage facilities put in, they should come from another pot, or perhaps
not the drainage,
maybe an assessment district.
I'm not saying the drainage. I've said that before. I said, not the drainage. I'm talking about sidewalks. Okay.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that.
I think we all agree on that. How about it, Bruno? I didn't hear you.
I haven't seen any sidewalks on any of our lists of things that have been done, and I'm not aware of a sidewalk.
They were just done within the last 6 months.
And I haven't done any projects
I can't remember where they were.
with Measure V money in the last 6 months. The last 6 months has been the only focus on Measure V money, to my knowledge, as the city engineer, has been Pearl, Emory, and Mullins. Now, there are going to be exceptions, I hope you all realize, and that is if we go into a street and rehabilitate it, if there is a section of sidewalk that is a result of the rehabilitation of the street that we have to remove, then we're gonna have to replace that, of course. But those are gonna be very small sections, 10 feet to 50 feet or something like that, and they're just intermittent. And the same with maybe handicap ramps or a curb ramps and things of that nature, driveways. If we take someone's concrete driveway out with the Measure V project, we're gonna have to put it back in. But those are pretty specific and very limited.
With the miles of sidewalks that we have, I have a feeling we're not going to hit that roadblock too often.
I got a question for you, Dave. How do these projects originate? Does the council come and say, okay, we got to spend some money next year for Measure V and we're going to do Emory? Or is there a plan you're going by? And when you bring these projects to the council, they don't get into any details about drainage or curbs and gutters or anything. They basically just say yay or nay and approve that you go out for bid. Isn't that correct?
No.
We get a few more questions than that,
yeah.
Ray. But what we have is, and Alan, I can do a share screen if you want to turn it over to me. I can show you the list.
We handed the plan out at the last meeting.
Last time, yeah.
I have it. I can put it up on share screen, but you may remember this big, long 11 by 17 list.
I've got it.
Two pages here. And that was actually a list that was adopted by the Measure V committee in 2018, I believe. And then with that list, we generated this list. It's gone back and forth for several times. And the basis of this creation of this list was the city's pavement management plan, which is a 2017 document, I believe. I don't remember. 2018 document also. So that's how we came up with the list. And this list takes us, it's a 5-year list. It takes us through the year 2024 of all of the streets. It's a budget, source funding, estimated project year, gives a pavement condition index. It's fairly detailed. The staff and Measure V committee and Public Works spend, yes, that's it. Spent a lot of time, a lot of thoughtful time to organize and put together that list. That's to answer your question.
We also had a workshop with the city council, and I think this was one of the last meetings where Doug and Greg were here and went over that with the council, and they signed off on the list. And so that's what we've been working from. The time's getting close where we're going to need to start adding a couple additional years on the list and revisit it. But that's what staff is using to move forward year after year.
And none of that is decided by this committee, nor does anybody want us to decide that. Is that correct?
Well, we are residents of the community. We can talk to our council members or provide our own suggestions to the city if we wanted to, but not via the committee.
Yeah. What it boils down to is our job is pretty easy here.
Yeah.
The first Measure V committee meeting that I attended, there was definitely input into this document. I don't know that it all got put in there exactly, but I took quite a bit of direction or information was shared with me about this document. So
from whom? From the
first
from
Measure
us?
V committee that I ever attended.
I've been to every one of them, and I don't remember that at all. In fact, what I remember was a plan in the pavement management index where this originally started. It doesn't really matter because if the city council doesn't want our input on that sort of thing, then we're just going around in circles again, like Sheryl said. Now, I've gotten different messaging from council members that I've talked to, and it really doesn't matter to me. I think that Dave's doing his job the way he thinks he needs to do it, and he's going to do as good a job as possible. And I think that the requirements based on the information I have, these 3 pages, it basically covers anything unless there's a big complaint from the community about how much of this money is being spent on wages. We really, or the council wants more input. Our job is simple. We either say, yes, they're spending it on the roads, or no, they're not. Alan got a new Corvette. I mean, well, it's pretty simple, really. It's basic. And Mike, if you want to go to council and say, do you want to expand our scope? And I've heard talk of that from councilmen, to get into details. In fact, one of them asked me to take a look at our grading crew because of my experience and tell them what I thought. So I did. I spent 3 separate occasions observing the grading crew across the highway and how they were doing things. I have a definite opinion on that. Do they want that opinion? I gave it to one of them anyway. But go ahead, Bruno.
I just want to say that every year we have seen exactly what Measure V was supposed to do. We're seeing projects. Every year we've seen the projects be scrutinized to the point that some have been postponed till the following year because we didn't receive the bid at the level that we wanted to see. So we're not we're being pretty frugal in how we're spending our money, because we're not just saying, oh, we got a bid, we're spending it. Twice now, I believe, there's been a postponement of projects because the bids came in too high. I would offer a suggestion. I think that, yes, everything that we have in front of us shows that that money went to roads. We can always say we approve. However, we'd like to share a concern, and maybe share the concern that at 33% of the entire value of Measure V being spent on, please be aware and be wary on, if this goes up, it will take away from the roads. Maybe something of the kind can be mentioned to the council, but it doesn't mean that the money was misspent, wrongly done, just as a suggestion for the council to continue to pay attention to the amount of funding being provided to the salaries of wages of those working on the roads. But then that's not up to us. That's up to them to make that decision.
I agree.
So
Mike, I'd like to hear what Mike has to say about what you just said, Bruno. Do you want to include something in our approval of what's been done? This is probably my last meeting, so it really doesn't matter. But I mean, if you want to expand the scope of the committee to include more, for example, to put a request into the city that no more than 30% or 50% or 70% be spent on wages and salaries and equipment and stuff, so that you allocate at least half of the amount to actual contract fix the road type of work. That's fine. I don't mind doing that.
I think we need to look at, are we not doing something that requires that? And I'm not seeing it. I think that whether you contract it or have our people do it, depending on where your resources are in any one given year, it shifts. So if we try to knock it down to a limited scope, we're just putting our hands and tying them behind our backs.
I agree with that.
Finished. We're not letting us do it. And the other thing to keep in mind is that, the key to this, and what Dave's alluded to in the past, is, he gets information on the road rating index. So, where's the traffic and where are the ratings? I mean, that's part of what I consider their job to do, and take that to council for approval as well. I don't think that it's always nice to know. I'd love to be involved in it, but I don't think that's our job.
I don't think anybody said that was our job.
Well, when you want to start taking it over, I don't know what that means then.
Nobody wants to take anything over. Okay. To answer your question, right? On the last meeting, Alan, you brought up that allocated, there was 60% of Measure V funds were allocated for labor, for salaries. Okay. And then now you show that actual was 33%.
Big difference.
and that's fine. But the whole point is, why is 60% allocated? I mean, that's my question. I mean, that's between the city and the council to determine if that's what they want to do. Okay. But my job is to make the council aware of that if they're not already. And if that's what they want to live with, then that's fine. That's not, that's not for me to say.
And my viewing, because I attend this year's been a little funky, but normally I'm at those council meetings if I'm in town, which is a lot. And they don't have a problem as long as we are using the money, whether it's staff labor or contract labor, current our equipment or rental equipment. It's what's easiest and best to manage at the time they need it to get the job done.
Okay.
What else?
So when everything goes downhill, so the council has to answer to the public. Okay.
And they do.
So
they do a lot.
when the public asks the city council why is 60% of Measure B funds being spent on salaries, to me that's a valid question. And the public are the ones that voted for this measure, so they do have a say in it. So whether you think they do or not, just because you think that something should be done no matter what, that's not the case. That's not
what I said.
I just want to say, I think the money is being spent absolutely great. I love the new roads, and I think that we should just say thank you for putting it onto the roads. And so far, even if it was 60% allocated, the fact is things were changed so that we can spend $1.2 million on a project so that we can get things done. And so something is working well. It may not be starting off exactly as it's intended to, but the fact is we have a city that knows its limitations based on Measure V, and we are getting exactly what we need. 4 years ago, this was not where we were. And each year we've seen it operate in a way that has increased and enhanced our city. So I want it to keep going. And I think that they need that flexibility. If they need more hands on deck to be able to do more specific type of work, to maybe re-straighten some roads and do specific work that can be done in-house, they need that flexibility. If we need to take away and be able to put more money on asphalt projects that we contract out, then they need that flexibility. And I think at this point, they're proving that they are flexible and that they're able to move things around and get things done the way we need them and the way to get done and the way it was intended to get done. So
and that's fine. Then there's really no point of this committee.
No,
I want to look at it that way.
Because if Alan got a Corvette, there would be absolutely a point to this committee.
Can I say something here, Mike? First
Right.
of all, I said this in the last meeting and I'll say it again. As far as the administration of the contract work that I've been to a lot of the bid openings, I think the city has done an excellent job in administrating. I mean, the bid opens at 3 o'clock, no more bids accepted after 3. Everything has been handled very well in that regard. As far as the actual spending of the money, there has been some hiccups and we discussed them. For example, we're already seeing some problems in Highlands Harbor because somebody dropped the ball, and we discussed that. I don't want to dig into it any deeper, but there are issues there. We did discuss some of the issues in the village area, but to be clear, the administration of the contract work has been done, in my opinion, very well. After that, it can get into details, but do we want to take that on, and do we want to do that? I mean, Bruno's shaking his head no. Mike, it sounds like you want more input. My honest opinion with the council, the ones I've talked to, and I've talked to a few of them, is that they don't mind getting the extra input. It helps them do what they do. Will they pass a resolution to amend the ordinance or the requirements as it's written? Because it's in writing now that if they do these things, they're adhering to the terms of the ordinance. And I haven't seen anybody screaming about money being spent elsewhere. So like you said, Mike, this committee, it's an easy decision. Yes, they're spending the money on the roads, or no, they're not. If you want to get into details, the council is going to need to direct us.
All right. Is there, so, I mean, what else was on that list that for discussion? Anything or? I think we covered that. I mean,
So we got projects 2021, projects 21-22, and then new business. And setting a meeting date. That's
if
it.
anybody see a need to discuss any of the other, anything
Any new
else?
business? Yeah.
Go ahead, Alan.
Well, according to all this, we don't even need to discuss the future projects because we have no input on those. I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
So at some point, and I don't think this was sent out, but I just updated it for you guys if you want to do this, that previously there's been a resolution adopted by the committee that's forwarded to the city council. And so I think if you have, I mean, we kind of went on all of those agenda items and touched on them all a little bit. If there's any other questions on all of those, whenever the committee's ready, you could consider adopting that resolution. And of course you could amend it however you like, but I do have one I can put up on the screen for you to look at whenever you're ready.
I think if, you know, we've gone round and round in these meetings, every meeting we've talked about scope and efficiency. We've talked about a lot of things, but and the input that I've gotten from a couple of the councilmen is they wanted that sort of thing. But on the other hand, they haven't issued us a directive to do any of that. So in my opinion, Mike, you're more accurate than anybody saying there's not really a lot of point of us being here unless, and we should just approve the resolution and move on. Otherwise, we need to have a motion to send something to the council that requests a change of scope.
Is there something you want to change of scope in that's already out there? That because we've had these projects now for 2 yees. This is the second year.
I don't
My
think
road done. I just want my road done.
Oh, is that? Oh, so
I need to have mine redone. It's falling apart
The only
already.
reason I'm on the committee.
or aren't they doing San Joaquin next?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
No Measure V dollars.
Just that one section, just skip Measure V.
Yeah, can we have any inside info on that, Alan? I heard that their PG&E gave us a lot of money. Off the topic here for a second. I heard that you got something in process.
Yeah, basically all of Lakeshore Drive, San Joaquin, and most of the side streets between, well, we have a map that,
Like San Joaquin Extension, Monterey.
yeah, all
Like
those
that.
little streets out there towards the end in the Sulphur Fire area.
When will that go to bid?
Dave can confirm, but the plan is that it's going to go to bid in January.
That's what I kind of thought.
So yeah, it's we're going to be spending somewhere around $10 million of settlement funds from PG&E.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see me clapping, but that's
We can
awesome.
hear it.
It's very blurry, but it looks great.
Yeah, I love it. However that occurred, that's awesome because I got my wife's aunt lives out there and she's afraid to drive in anymore. She lives out towards the city limits out that direction. I had to go get her on my 4-wheel drive not too long ago. It's scary.
It's going to be a massive increase in property values in that area, in my opinion.
Yes, love it. Congratulations.
So, Alan, what was that? You needed something, a motion on the resolution?
I'll put
Yeah,
the
if you could pop it
resolution
up.
This is just based on what was done before. So let me see. I think this is the one.
There we go.
I did, since we didn't technically have a meeting on the expenditures the previous year, I just put from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2020, covering both of those fiscal years. But that's the standard language that's been used before. So if you want to add anything to it, we can.
So I have a quick question. It was about checking the finances for Measure V, but I had some other questions that hadn't been answered yet unless I missed it when I was driving and trying not to get pulled over. The miles or linear feet done in grading, because part of the promise was annual grading of all the dirt roads, and we weren't provided any numbers. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, the past is the past. It doesn't really matter. I hope you have those numbers somewhere so that we can see if we're getting better at grading on a year-to-year basis. And I'm just curious, are we keeping track of those things so that we can see if we are getting better?
Yeah, I don't know if Dale or Dave want to add anything, but we have been keeping track of that. I haven't asked for those numbers this grading season, to be honest with you. I think they've been tracking them still. I hope so. But we do have them for the last couple of years for sure. And I know that, this year is a bit of a down year because other projects, there's been less grading that's happened. But I know last year, I think we at least doubled the amount of miles that were graded from the year before. But
it'd be interesting to have 3 columns: the miles that were graded, the miles that were repaved or rehabbed, and then the miles that are being double chip sealed or whatever it is that you did to the dirt roads, so that we can see how is that affecting the roads as far as your crew, as far as being able to manage the entirety of the dirt roads by slowly replacing it with a double chip seal. Because I think that was a smart move to do, and I'm glad you did it. I love that road. It was nice. Unfortunately, the person in front of me was sliding all over the place, trying to enjoy the road a little too much. But I just think that's going to be one of those things that makes you be able to actually reach the goal of doing all of the dirt roads on an annual basis as you slowly do more chip sealing.
I think that every year that they're going over, and I heard Alan say to me that they're going over some roads for the second time. So if you were to do, whatever number of feet in a week, that same road is going to take less time because it should be in much better shape second time around. I do know that, and I visited the crews out there, and the guys work hard. The flagging issue is a whole different subject, but as far as the people the labor on the ground, the guy on the grader, they keep track of how many feet that they do because they're proud of the fact if they increase that. They were bragging to me that, yeah, we got this many feet this week. I didn't even write it down, but I thought it was pretty cool.
Taking pride in their work.
Mhm.
Yeah. One thing I was going to ask you, Alan, that load or the pile of grindings that we had at the airport, that's gone now. Yeah.
They're mixing out there.
I think
Are they remaking a pile? Is that what they're doing?
It looks like they're mixing. So they're taking the asphalt, the dirt, the sand. So you've got big piles of all 3 mixtures is what it looks like.
Yeah. What is your engineering degree in?
Actually, I don't have an engineering degree, but I have supervised engineers from mechanical, civil, and electrical considerably for PG&E. I've done a lot of construction projects within PG&E, from substations to service center in San Francisco. I have supervised construction crews all over this territory.
Okay, I thought you said you were a
Clearlake.
civil engineer.
No, I didn't say I was a civil engineer. So engineering is my technical expertise at this point. And I did supervise engineers. I've had a lot of engineering classes. I've done a lot with engineers. So I have some pretty good strength in that capacity.
Okay, I thought you said you were. Okay, my mistake. Is there any idea how much of that stuff we hauled out of there? Sorry, Mike. Did they ever calculate how much of that what size that pile was? This is just a curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't answer that. I don't know if Dave.
They didn't keep track of it. Okay.
All right. So I guess we need a motion to approve resolution number OC 2020-01.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, hold on. Just want to make sure. We're doing July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2020. We're not doing 1920. We're doing 2 full years.
The first
Yeah,
one.
we didn't have a meeting actually to review 1819.
Okay.
So
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because you did show us the numbers for both years, but
We didn't have a meeting last year.
there was transition.
That's a nice way to put it.
All right, and nobody against? All right.
So I didn't say anything. I was still thinking.
Oh, okay.
Okay, do we want to add any other, and you guys should decide this, do you want to request that the council give you as an addendum to this, any additional scope on what the committee's actually doing? If this would be the time to do it, if that's what you guys feel that, my term is ending soon, and who else? Who would be the other person? Because there's 2 councilmen that are up.
Yeah, so I have the answer to that.
Okay.
This is Melissa. So for the Measure V Oversight Committee, the chair, Gianbruno, was appointed by Councilmember Purdock. Member Silva was appointed by Councilmember Harris, and Member Van Diver was appointed by Councilmember Overton. And those are
Okay,
the 3
so-
terms that are ending at the end of this year.
Okay, so Joyce could reappoint Mike if he wanted to, or does that just continue on if she gets, is she up for election?
She is. So
Yeah.
those appointments are made by individual council members, and after the seating of the new council, they would consider that early next year, making appointment individually.
So if Joyce, when she gets reelected, would have to reappoint Mike, is what you're saying?
It runs, yes. So she would need to make a decision on how she wishes to proceed with the appointment.
Cool. Well then, so there's Kurt would be done anyway. So it's up to kind of Sheryl and Bruno and
I think we're the only 2.
yeah, if you guys decide that you want to put an addendum, I mean, I'd basically stay out of that because I probably won't be here, but this would be the time to do it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to expand it. I'm not seeing anything I'm concerned about in how staff is handling this stuff. And I go to almost all the council meetings, so I hear what everybody's concern is generally. I won't say I'm 100%, but neither are they.
Mike, what do you think?
No, I mean, there's no need to make, that information that you have there as far as what the scope is of Measure B, I've never seen that, but I don't know when that was produced or.
I don't know if I can put it close enough to the screen for you to see it.
Well, can you scan it and email it to me?
How
Yeah, I
about
could
if
do that.
can we email it to Melissa, because I didn't get that either. All I've gotten is the spreadsheet, and
I think Melissa may have sent it out during the meeting, but if not, we'll send it out to all members.
okay.
No,
Yes,
she
I
said
emailed it to
the actual
all
measure.
members.
Go for it, Melissa.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say she only sent the Measure V actual ballot, which didn't have those specific descriptions. The ballot's pretty dry. I think that we leave it as is. I don't think that we can talk to our council members, but I don't think that this committee was made to be scrutinizing or micromanaging as much as a council was supposed to micromanage if they need to change some of these things. And so I think we could have our private conversations with them. And if they feel they need to make those changes, they make those changes. Our job is just to say, yes, money was spent where it should have been. And that's it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you according to what's documented, but honestly, and I'm not going to mention any names, a couple of councilmen pushed me, get your nose in there and see what's going on. And I don't want to stir anything up and
Ray, I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to be very honest with you, Ray. what we have now on our team makes me feel a whole lot better than what we had then on our team. Because we were not.
What team you talking about?
I'm just saying, our new staff that we have for public works and engineering is a lot, in my opinion, a lot more trustworthy in what we're being told versus being told something just to smile and move on. And so I appreciate what we have now, and I feel much more comfortable with what we have now.
Yeah, I think.
All right, so, Bruno, did you vote on that, yes or no, or?
Aye.
on that?
Yes. Okay, 3, 4. There were 4 of us.
Yeah.
All right, so,
So new business, or are we ready to adjourn?
Do we have
anybody
any?
have anything else?
I think when's our next meeting is the new business.
Yeah, that's a line item.
All right. Yes, we need a motion to adjourn, or?
No, we need to get a date,
Were we looking at doing this once a year? Because that's what we had talked about last time, is once or twice a year. And I think just once a year, because we know what we're already planning to spend the money on. It's written down. It's already being worked on. All we have to do is look at how the money was spent once it's actually been spent. So just, and I like this time frame, meaning that you've received your last quarter of information. We can really look at the whole entire year and not say we've got everything up till the third quarter and here's what our estimate is for what we've received. So
Yeah,
I think
we should have the meeting.
October is good.
October is
Yeah, we
good.
should have the meeting at the end of the year, or afterwards, so we can see
Yeah.
the whole.
That makes sense. Wait till the numbers are in.
Right.
So, Alan or Melissa, I guess, you guys can
I
schedule
should
that.
be free on October 22nd, 2021. I don't think I have anything else going on.
I gotta look at my calendar.
Is that a Saturday?
Alan, do you need anything more from us?
I don't, I think that's it.
He's had enough from us.
Well, we've beat it around the bush a few times, and I think that it's a done deal. We gave you your resolution, and if there's going to be a change, it'll happen next time around.
All right.
We'll schedule a meeting for early October next year.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn.
Bye-bye.
Sure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.